standard bans. We're not seeing anything that's particularly out there quite yet. And Twisted Fate is going to be the last of the 6 bans. And today's game, guys, is absoluteLegends going up against HeimerdingersCollosi. And these two teams that have come through some quite strong teams to get to where they are now. We saw absoluteLegends yesterday take down British Tea Time, who were on a significant winning streak after having not been defeated during the entirety of last week's tournament and also the first round from this week. So absoluteLegends going through last week's winners to get to this final, and then HeimerdingersCollosi have gone through quite some strong teams as well to get here themselves.
Yeah, they actually beat Tricked 2-0 last night, and Tricked were looking very, very strong on the first day, and HeimerdingersCollosi just steamrolled over them. So, obviously a very, very strong team. absoluteLegends also claimed the win over TCM in the first round, which are a pretty strong team. So, I do feel we have two extremely strong teams here in the finals, probably going to be fairly equal matched. But if you had to give a prediction, Stress, where would you go down right now? I'd probably just edge ahead with HeimerdingersCollosi.
I would if Extinct were playing today. Now, Extinct is being subbed today for Lego My Ego, who will be, as I said, replacing Extinct. Extinct had some prior commitments that he was attending, so I'm still a little bit new to this absoluteLegends team. They've kind of come out of nowhere and caught a lot of people by surprise, so I'm still not quite sure exactly how how they can perform right now. So it'll be interesting to see them come against a team that made, as you said, Tricked look fairly easy yesterday. We are at a point where about halfway through the picks now. Thresh picked up first for absoluteLegends, then a Rumble and Nautilus, Diana, and then Volibear. So that's where we're at right now. And remember, guys, for the Champion Select, we are casting from the stream, which is why we're a little bit behind on where the actual picks and bans are.
Yeah, indeed. So we do have 6 bans at the moment, waiting for that. Sorry, not 6 bans, 6 picks and 6 bans, waiting for the next 2 pickups here. My stream's really bad quality because I'm on the 240p. Which side is which? Is HeimerdingersCollosi on the right side?
No, it is sorry, yes. I've left and right, I got mixed up. absoluteLegends are going to be on blue side for the first game of the day. It is a best of 5 today, and hopefully that means I can get my left and rights correct on red and blue, and we can end up knowing exactly what's going on, because if we don't know what's going on, I don't know how everybody else is going to know what's going on.
Yeah, so we do have the Varus and Sona pickup here for HeimerdingersCollosi alongside Nautilus and Rumble. Lots of AoE already, lots of CC as well. Now going to be switching back over to absoluteLegends, who have their last 2 picks to go ahead and take. So they still need to pick up their AD carry and also their mid or top laner, because of course Diana could be potentially played in either role. So fairly interesting. We've seen quite a lot of Ezreal so far in this tournament, the Stress, so potentially could see an Ezreal coming out. We've also seen a lot of Draven, as I've just seen Draven hovered over there, and he has been locked in. So it will be Draven facing off against Varus. Draven Thresh lane is really scary because there's a lot of CC. If you land a death sentence onto a character that's as squishy as Sona, Draven will clean her up in a heartbeat. So could maybe have the switches coming in here, Stress, with 1v2 lanes.
Yep, maybe, and after about 8 games in succession of having blue Ezreal with some kind of poke composition, yay, we don't have an Ezreal in the game. I'm having flashbacks to Season 2 with saying, yay, we don't have an Ezreal, but at least now we have some extra diversity, and it's not just Ezreal, Corki, and Graves every game. So, Draven going up against Varus in that AD carry position is something that we've seen a teeny little bit of in the past couple of weeks, but definitely a refreshing change to the past couple of days.
Yes, so we do have the last pick. We also had Kha'Zix locked in alongside the Draven right at the end there. So you just expect to have Kha'Zix in mid, although again, Diana and Kha'Zix can be played either or. And it looks like we could have an Anivia pickup here for HeimerdingersCollosi. I don't think we've seen a great deal of Anivia. From memory, I think we've seen 1 so far in every tournament we've hosted out of the 4 series. So yeah, I'm interested to see another fresh champion being picked.
Yeah, and it's Lego My Ego that's picking that up. Obviously, as we said, subbing out Extinct today, so a breath of fresh air into that mid lane pickup. So something quite interesting there. We'll see how that goes up against It looks like it's gonna be Diana in that mid lane. Kazakh's looking to be the jungler for high switch. So Diana against Anivia is not a lane seen very often. There aren't too many people that play Anivia right now. Had a couple of problems with her mana. Has always been a highly mana dependent champion because of her ultimate. We've actually gone back out of champion select. I'm not sure exactly why that is. Hopefully we can get an update. Guys in chat are saying client is buggy, so looks like we did get all the picks and bans locked in though.
Yes, we did get the picks and bans locked in. I don't think any of those will be a placeholder. They all looked completely viable and fine to me. So if you are wondering, Aldrin is Yamato Cannon, and Extinct has been subbed in for Lego My Ego. As Stress said earlier, he had previous commitments, so he couldn't make it today. So that's the reason why it may look quite strange. Yamato Cannon on another Smurf account. I'm not quite sure what the story is behind that, but either way, we are in the lobby again, waiting for the 10th player to go ahead and join, and then we'll be back into the picks and bans, Stress.
Yeah, and absoluteLegends saying that they weren't able to swap because of a client bug, so it might not end up that Kazakh's is in the jungle after all. Not the most orthodox of picks, Kazakh's in the jungle, but certainly not the strangest of picks either. I'm sure plenty of you have seen people in solo queue locking in Kazakh's in the jungle, so can be done, but not as often in the competitive scene as pretty much you'd expect. And now, Metuz, we are doing a giveaway today. Could you give us any info on what we can win and how we can win it?
Yes, we are doing a giveaway today. Today's going to be an awesome laptop giveaway. So if you want to be in contention to win this, you have to go to Raid Call. It's going to be room 7007. It's titled Kaostv Laptop Giveaway. And we are giving away an XMG gaming laptop. That will be later on today after the best of 5 has concluded. So again, that's Raid Call 7007 Kaostv Laptop Giveaway channel. Get yourself in there and you could be winning yourself a laptop.
Yeah, and don't forget, guys, that we also like interacting with you guys on our Facebook and Twitter. That's at Kaostv on Twitter. And make sure you send us your messages, predictions for this series, and also just general thoughts, really. I know a lot of you were talking about a few different things as we were waiting for the games to start. So, pass us on your thoughts about the tournament. Also, you can find me at Dignitas Stress, and Metuz is at metuzTV on Facebook, I believe, Vince?
Yep, on Facebook. I do have a Twitter account, but I just don't use it a great deal. You can also follow the stream, guys, if you want to be kept up to date when we go live. Obviously, we will be running, well, I'm assuming here, Bass, I don't want to say we will be running a tournament if it's not sure, but I'm thinking you would like to run another one next week. Is that correct? Yeah, he says, of course. Right, okay, it should be announced on Saturday or Sunday, so we'll have more awesome Challenger Series action coming up for you in the very near future. We are being in the lobby at the moment. I have managed to reconnect here, so I won't have to watch off the stream and get lag and all that other bad stuff. But we are waiting to jump in here, Stress. Bit of a slow start, but I am looking forward to this best of 5. I honestly think it could go down to the wire.
Yeah, and I don't think the game is going to be anything like that. We saw from HeimerdingersCollosi yesterday that slow is not a mode they have, really. So many champions and so many teams this week have been just hyper-aggressive all of the time. If I remember rightly, it was HeimerdingersCollosi in their first game that just pretty much picked 5 aggressive champions and just didn't let up for the entire game. So the rest of the evening shouldn't be quite the same pace as this. But of course, there are issues sometimes with the client and that sort of thing, and that's kind of what we have to try and deal with from time to time. Hopefully at some point that'll all get ironed out over on the side of the game client. But we are back into picks and bans, so we'll see what people are banning. Any funny names. absoluteLegends banning that AL and then another A. So yeah, a couple of little words being spelled out in GKG. Not sure what that exactly stands for here.
Yeah, so we are into the picks again. Goldfish memory strikes. I can't really remember a great deal of both teams, but okay, yeah, we do have a. I was thinking, I think it's a Varus and Sona they have at the bot lane with an Anivia. Yeah, that's HeimerdingersCollosi's lineup here. You do have Odo on the Kazakh, so that therefore you have to assume it's going to be at the top lane actually, and Bano will be running the Diana in mid, which I believe we saw previously in the tournament. So knows how to play that character very well. And finally you had a Draven pick up for absoluteLegends, and I'm at a loss to remember what their jungler was. Volibear, there we go. So they're the two lineups for the two teams.
Metuz pretty much just going through the mental checklist of the game that was on a couple of minutes ago. It's one of the. It seems really silly that it takes a bit to remember, but the number of games that you end up watching in a day kind of just ends up slipping away from you until you're in game. But you can see the teams have all been locked in, so that means we're going in towards game number 1. About to head into the delay period. Still got a little bit left on it, guys, but. As you can see, the teams, as you said, Bano, I think I'm going to call him, did play Diana yesterday against British Tea Time. I know British Tea Time were looking to play Diana in that game as well, so that came back and didn't end up so good for them. They did end up losing that series after taking a 1-0 lead. They ended up dropping the series 2-1 to absoluteLegends, and that's how absoluteLegends find themselves here. And we'll see whether Bano can repeat that performance. Of course, we also saw Nidalee yesterday playing a very ballsy pick with Nidalee. They've actually swapped it up, so Bano is going to be playing Kha'Zix right at the last second. There is going to be that swap.
Scumbagging us. We're thinking, oh, brilliant, we've got Diana mid. Nope, switch over. It's going to look to be Kha'Zix mid with the teleport, and that's quite an interesting idea. It means he's not going to have quite as much threat in the lane and kill potential, because a lot of Kha'Zixes will pick up the ignite, but team-wise and kind of global pressure-wise, Kha'Zix is going to be fairly terrifying to play against, because he can just pop up behind you in the blink of an eye. You don't know what's happening, and suddenly you're nearly dead. But we have about 2 minutes 20 remaining delay, ladies and gents. We're going to cut to a very quick commercial break, and when you join us, will be live for the first game of this best of 5 grand finals. We'll see you right after this.
Sunlight begins to fade now, and I feel like I'm losing time, but I don't know how I'm here. The sunlight has turned to gray, and I feel like I'm losing love again. I don't know how I'm here. I could feel your heartbeat. I could feel somewhere you're looking down. I could feel your heartbeat. I could feel somewhere you're looking down. 'Cause it's you I'm loving, and it's you that I wanna breathe. And it's you I'm loving, and it's you that I wanna need. And I know now we're getting older. The world we built is slipping through our fingers. We're running out of time. But you are the one I've chosen, and I won't lay still, living left behind, imprisoned by this love.
Hello my lovelies, we're back again for Kaostv's live coverage of the EUS Challenger Series number 4 Grand Finals between HeimerdingersCollosi, Bass, your mic, and absoluteLegends. We are right into the action here, Stress. I met this joined by Stress, and I'm very interested to see how game number 1 is going to go. Lots of very interesting picks, actually, and a lot of the picks kind of indicate to me that there is going to be a lot of deaths in this game. Like, loads.
I think I'm just about getting over hello, my lovelies. You killed me with that one, Vince. Okay, yeah, lots of deaths is what we're expecting. Because, as I said, HeimerdingersCollosi just like to play so aggressive. We'll see exactly if they continue that with the couple of change-ups they've had. Lego My Ego, as we said, stubbing in for Extinct in this game. And he's playing Anivia in that middle lane. Not the most aggressive of champions is Anivia. Normally prefers to sit and farm in lane. But we have seen the move away from that kind of play style in Season 3. So will that continue, or will we see a farming game out of Anivia in this mid lane? Defensive starts for both teams shows that maybe they're just trying to feel each other out to begin with. And no real aggressive plays from what we've normally seen.
Yeah, Lego My Ego on the Anivia. Anivia is one of the kings of stalling. We've seen this from Frog and time again, way back in the CLG.eu days and all that kind of jazz, but it's very difficult to push against an Anivia, so that's definitely one to watch out for. Draven isn't the greatest of AD carries at pushing down towers to start with, so I feel they're going to have to try and force team fights away from the towers and then pick them up as the game progresses. But obviously only time's going to tell. Anivia is against Spano in mid on the Kha'Zix, so going to be quite interesting between the two of them. Top lane has been switched as we were expecting. Draven and Thresh would be so scary for Sona to play against. She's such a squishy support character. If a death sentence had have landed, would have been a certain death. So it's going to be Diana facing off against Varus and Sona, and on the flip side, a Rumble against Thresh and the Draven.
Yeah, and I'm just getting a little bit of intel from our analysis couch, which I guess would be brokenshard at his desk, because we're not at an offline event. But brokenshard just letting me know that Lego My Ego is a very defensive mid laner and will pretty much look to outfarm anyone. So that is why there's that Anivia pickup. And it'll be interesting to see how that gels with the rest of the team from HeimerdingersCollosi. As I said, we've seen very aggressive plays out of them. So they've picked up a replacement for Extinct in this game, but will it gel with the overall style of the team?
And maybe try and just bring some balance to the team. If you have a player that is happy to basically sit back and farm a lot, then that's going to give them a lot of power going into the mid to late game, especially with Anivia. She is one of the best characters, let's be honest, if farming is your forte. So she's going to just basically be sat in mid, taking down minions all day long until fights kick off, and then putting down a ton of damage all over the place. So bot lane, we do have Draven and Thresh being very aggressive, as you'd expect them to be. Snipperfly's had a really good tournament thus far. Volibear's coming towards top lane. He's actually popped the Rolling Thunder, but he's not going to bother to pursue, and instead just help out Diana to clear this creep wave. So far, so good for both teams. It's pretty much even. Gold almost identical, and nothing has really happened.
Yeah, just as I said, both teams just trying to figure out exactly how the other is playing, what they're likely to do. You've seen the junglers take position with their solo laners in these 2v1 lanes to hold the early pushes. As we've said a couple of times, Varus and Sona have fairly good push potential down in the bottom lane. There has been an engagement on towards Meluno. He's dropped very low. Flash is coming out from a number of them. Snipperfly is chasing on it behind the turret, has been forced to back off. Rumble trying to take as much damage on to Snipperfly as possible. Now this is obviously, the patch did not go through, so Rumble has not been nerfed in the game. Thresh is going to pick up the first blood, but will actually die and pick up the 1-for-1 trade altogether.
Yeah, so that was quite interesting there. Draven at first, in fact, hold that thought, because here comes Anivia from the side. Barrier's been popped, has the Ignite as well, and Snipperfly will be dropping as the Ignite ticks down. I can't get my words out for some strange reason. Either way, that's a 2-for-1 exchange, but I was kind of scratching my head there for a few seconds when Draven ran straight past the towers chasing after Nautilus. I thought that Rumble may actually be able to pick those kills up, but not just. Very, very close, but not quite.
Yeah, and overall it goes to 2-1 from that engagement in the bottom lane, and HeimerdingersCollosi will be pretty happy about that. I mean, brokenshard was telling me, meanwhile, in the mid lane, once again, Bano gets dropped quite low. brokenshard was saying that Lego My Ego isn't afraid to punish mistakes, even though he is quite a defensive player. So you saw him drift down to pick up the easy kill onto Draven, and picks himself up a kill in that mid lane.
Yeah, very true. So it was smart. It was global awareness, and probably his team was screaming at him as well. Go and take down Draven. He's really low, running by Drake. So it was a fairly free kill. He's going to go ahead and finish off the Tear of the Goddess and add a Ruby Crystal too. He has some pots and a Sight Ward. Let's have a look at Kha'Zix. Has finished off his Tear of the Goddess. Pretty much exactly what you'd expect, because of course he wants to go into that Mana Moon and then later Muramana. So apart from that Fnatic kind of few seconds, in fact, all I thought, because we have another engage. This time it's going to be top lane. We do have Diana going very low. Kha'Zix from the side though. Here comes Nautilus from the backside. Varus has picked up a kill. He will be falling down from Volibear. Now a 2 versus 2. Maluno's going to try his best to pick up a kill, but with the passive of High Switch ticking down, they're not going to be able to claim that kill. So it was a 1-for-1 exchange with the AD carry and top laner falling.
Yeah, and again, HeimerdingersCollosi, I think they'll probably take that because they can still apply quite a lot of pressure here in the top lane. And Sona and Nautilus are going to push and try and shove High Switch off so they can get that wave up to the tower. Meanwhile, in that mid lane, you can see that Lego My Ego has managed to push it all the way to the tower himself and actually taking the tower down to half health already. So a lot of damage coming out from the minions. You can see Bano can't even really jump forward towards Inifia, and anytime that's happening for a Kha'Zix, that's not a great start to the game, to be honest. Normally he'd like to be putting out as much damage as possible so that he can then jump in and finish off the mid laner, but he's been punished so hard by Lego My Ego already that he's having difficulty doing that, and up in that top lane, that turret did end up falling.
It has fallen, but on the flip side, the bot tower for HeimerdingersCollosi has only got about 130 health remaining, so it will go down fairly soon as well. Having said that though, Varus has actually came to bot lane with Sona, so this is somewhat of a deja vu moment from me from yesterday, I believe it was, where it was HeimerdingersCollosi that forced the switch up and actually took down the opposite tower before losing their own, and were able to hold on to it until about 20 minutes. So I am curious to see if Mithy this time around and Freeze can hold this. Of course, yesterday it was Kazmich that was replacing Mithy for the day. So how will Freeze and Mithy play together this time around? They are pushing the lane very aggressively, so I'm going to try and put some damage down onto the opposition bot tower. This is looking good for HeimerdingersCollosi.
Yep, looking pretty good right now, and obviously with that top tower down, that's giving them that extra gold. That's pretty much where all of the gold lead they have is right now. Apart from that, a fairly even game. The only real big CS disparity is up in that top lane. You can see Diana on 31 CS to only 15 for Rumble, so that early pressure that was applied did take its toll on Yamato Cannon. He'll be trying to farm his way back into this game. He has gone quite quickly towards that Seeker's Arm Guard, does have the double cloth armor and the amp tome. So once he goes back and finishes that off, he'll be able to stack that for that extra armor and ability power and build towards the Zhonya's Hourglass.
Yeah, so both mid laners have picked up their blue. That's going to be nice for both of them, actually. They like to spam their abilities away, especially with the Tear of the Goddess. They want to get those stacks up as soon as possible. And Nivea is going to be popping down a ward, actually on top of an absoluteLegends ward. And you do have High Switch actually hiding in the bush right now. So obviously going to be trying to make a play on towards Yamato Cannon. Comes out with the Rolling Thunder, does manage to land it. Here comes the Moonfall as well from Diana. Rumble is going down very, very fast. Even with the Ignite and Equalizer pop down, not going to be enough, and he will find himself back in the Death Chamber. This is going to allow absoluteLegends to put down a lot of pressure at top, and with Volibear having his Frenzy at level 4, this tower could very well go down, Stress.
Yeah, and it's pretty tricky now for Rumble. That lane, the tower they got down and then ended up swapping the lanes around, kind of has worked against him because he'd built a fair amount of armor, but going into a lane against a Diana, as you can see, Meluna is trying to hold this, putting down a significant amount of damage. So Damna is going to use that Luna rush to try and get out of there. Nice dredge lane is going to land. Does pick up the kill with a final auto attack, but that switch didn't really work out all that well for Rumble in the end of all things. Death sentence has landed. Snipperfy is trying to get in on this one. The box has landed as well. Chains of Corruption go down. Can Freeze and Ecstasis manage... Sorry, Freeze and Mithy put out enough damage for this one. Snipperfy is going to be forced to barrier and back out of the situation. As I was trying to say, Rumble built a lot of armor and ended up in the lane against Diana. This quite isn't over yet. This fight isn't quite over, is what I'm trying to say. Freeze does end up picking himself up a double kill after the death sentence landed, but he didn't really manage to get too much out of that for Absolute Legends.
I'm really surprised that Absolute Legends would re-engage there, because they have a Sona at the HeimerdingersCollosi, and for the 3 or 4 seconds that, you know, Thresh and Draven were pulling themselves back, she was just spamming her W. She was just giving health to Freeze, who also has a BF sword and 2 Doran's blades. So when they went back into that fight again, Draven was never ever going to beat Varus. So double kill for Varus, pretty much for free. They're also taking the Drake, and I'm also going to mention that Anivia managed to pick up the mid tower. So it's 2-to-1 towers in total, and soon to be a Drake on top of that. Volibear has flashed up there as he's got a lot of harassment coming down from Freeze, and after this Drake is picked up, that's going to be a 2.5k gold discrepancy. They are going to try the engage here, or less just harassing each other. Here comes the nice stand aside from Draven, forcing the flash, and the Kazakhs jumping in with the void spikes as well. And yeah, Lego My Ego's flash will be down.
And now itemization's a little bit different to what we'd normally have. You can see Varus ended up getting those 3 kills and extra CS and is rushed pretty much straight for flat damage with that Bloodthirst. I mean, we've seen Varus recently going Blade of the Ruined King, but deciding to go straight for that Bloodthirst is something a little bit different from usual. But of course, when you're sat that far ahead, damage is pretty much a good thing to have on any AD carry.
Indeed. So the tower has fallen. That's going to be 2-2, but of course the Drake advantage is going to be paying out well for HeimerdingersCollosi right now. You do have the Catalyst, the Protector, and the Blasting One, so going to be going into the Rod of Ages more than likely very shortly. Bloodthirster, as we mentioned before, on Varus. And let's have a look at the top laners, because you said before, and it's a very true statement, that Rumble is feeling the heat here against Diana. He is behind on CS, isn't having a great laning phase, but does have the kill, whereas Diana just with the 2 assists. So actually, in total, coming out about even, and when you add on top of that the Drake, I'm sure Rumble is actually ahead on goal. Let's have a quick look. Yes, he is, by about 300, but still, it has been a very rough patch for him this first 12.5 minutes.
Yeah, it hasn't been the easiest first start to this game. And I kind of don't know where he goes from here, because he's got that Seeker's Arm Guard now fully stacked. I mean, he's obviously going to end up going towards those magic penetration items that we so commonly see out of Rumble, but he's been starved so much that really when they get into these mid-game fights, he's not going to be doing as much damage as he'd like to be. The Equalizer is going to do a significant amount of damage in team fights, but it is on cooldown right now, so he's kind of just going to passively farm out that lane back when it gets to about the midway point. You can see Diana's doing a very similar thing. Diana also forced to buy the Negatron Cloak rather than any damage items on top of that double Doran's and the Sorcerer's Shoe, so something a little bit unorthodox for there. Sometimes we've seen Diana's picking up that Nash's Tooth, and it looks like we're getting an Abyssal Scepter this time around.
Yeah, exactly. I was about to say the same thing. I think because she's going against the Rumble and an Anivia, so it's like a double AP comp in that sense, wants to make sure that she won't go down very quickly, and it's going to be reflected as well on Rumble, who's picked up the Negatron Cloak himself. So yeah, more than likely Abyssal Scepter first coming out for Diana here. Seeker's Arm Guard on Rumble, pretty much standard what you'd expect, especially against the Kazakhs. Does not want to be getting nuked down instantly. We do have Mithy and Freeze pushing the lane here at bot again. Nautilus coming round from the side is actually counter jungling. He's behind enemy lines. Kazakhs jumps over, going to be taking the Wraiths, But it's kind of came to somewhat of a stalemate here, Stress. So often is the case with these games where you have a sudden burst of, action, and then for the next few minutes after a Drake or after a tower goes down, it's pretty much just a farming frenzy.
Yeah, but it's not quite the Season 2 games you'd have where there would be not a lot happening for like 35 minutes other than just
true.
solid farming. So at least there is some sense of action in it, and you can see Hodamna and Yamato Cannon up in that top lane. That armor that he's bought now forced into a Negatron cloak as well, so both of them pretty much are going to not do a lot of damage to each other right now because they've both been forced to build tanky rather than build damage, and you can see that a double AP composition out of HeimerdingersCollosi. How is that going to go up against that AD mid laner we've got in Kha'Zix? So Hodamna goes on towards Yamato Cannon. Is he going to be able to get out of this? Has popped the equalizer. That's going to shred down Hodamna quite a bit, forcing him back towards the other tower. Flamespitter is running. He's in the danger zone. There's the shield. It's going to come out from Diana. Can he jump back in on this? Present Strike goes across. Not going to be able to catch up. Bano in the mid lane at the same time has been taken down by Lego My Ego.
Bano got completely decimated. Look at Lego My Ego's health. He's like barely got a scratch. At bot lane, we do have the box going down here. And the Lantern as well. Somehow Draven manages to survive with Volibear picking up that kill onto Varus. Here comes Anivia from the side though. So Mithy has to be careful. Firing in the Flash Frost. Does land it on towards High Switch. And Sona's going to be getting the shutdown kill onto Volibear. And this is going to be turned on right now. Draven with such little health. He doesn't have a hope in hell's chance of getting away from this. But the question is, who's going to pick up the kill? Looks like Anivia puts down the wall. Here comes a Flash Frost. Boom, right onto the backside of Draven. And that's going to be a 4 for 10 in favor of HeimerdingersCollosi, looking very, very strong.
Yep, 10 kills to 4 right now. 25,000 gold on the side of HeimerdingersCollosi. Only 21.5 on the side of absoluteLegends. And as this tower goes down, that's going to be even more in favor of HeimerdingersCollosi. They're a little bit afraid. They're pinging for a ward in Tribush, but they don't really have anybody that's available to come down and defend that turret, though. So they do pick up that turret. That puts them to 26,000 gold right now. 3 towers to 2. Elixir has been picked up by Mithy, so they're going to start to clear out some of the few wards on the map.
Yeah, and we are starting to see how scary Anivia can be. 4-0-1 with 154 CS. Must have a fair chunk of change in the back pocket. Indeed does. 2,150 gold or thereabouts, and has Tear of the Goddess and Boots of Speed, so alongside the Rod of Ages, so pretty much just has any option available to her. Whatever she wants to pick up when she goes back will pretty much be hers. In the meantime, we've got Varus, who's added a pickaxe to the Bloodthirster, and Draven has just finished his Bloodthirster previously, so a pretty big discrepancy between the two AD carries, and Draven only has 460 gold, so Varus is a long way ahead right now.
Yeah, but he's significantly far ahead. As you said, Bloodthirster has been finished, pickaxe and level 2 boots as well. Dragon's up, so there's a de-warding going on by Mithy there. It's a fight in the mid lane. Bano got dropped very low once again to start that fight, and he's going to have a very tricky game to try and come back into this one, because if he can't stay alive for the beginning of a fight, he's never going to be able to get to that point where he can jump into the back line, because he'll just keep getting shut down and not pick up any kills. That's a very quick dragon coming out from HeimerdingersCollosi with that Flame Spitter, with the Haunting Guys, and also just the damage that's on Anivia and Varus. They can just shred through that dragon with ease. So that goes down in favor of HeimerdingersCollosi. They have themselves about 5,000 gold in the lead.
Yeah, and Anivia has herself 2,800 gold. Just under that to go and spend. Has recalled, so there's going to be a couple of massive damage spikes you have to feel here. There you go, ouch, needlessly large rod and Sork Shoes onto Anivia plus a Rod of Ages equals a lot of pain. So when she comes back into the game, I don't really want to be in Kha'Zix's position here. He's picked up the Boots of Swiftness, so has no magic resist, and Anivia is going to chunk right through him.
Yeah, and between that Frostbite and the Glacial Storm, there's going to be a lot of damage that's going to come out, as you said, with that needlessly large Rod of Ages, and also the Sorcerer Shoes for that extra magic penetration. If she can catch on towards somebody, that's going to be a very nasty sting from that Frostbite. Maluno now trying to look for something in that mid lane, but with it pushing out so far, there's a lot of map control on the side of HeimerdingersCollosi, and they don't want to push out too far because that's how you can end up giving away a lead like the one they do. So they're still playing fairly cautious with regards to pushing lanes where perhaps they don't quite have that advantage yet. And again, we're into one of these kind of stalemate situations where Yamato Cannon pushing a little bit further out this time up in that top lane. Draven and Thresher down in the bottom lane, so it looks like HeimerdingersCollosi might start to think about what's happening in mid once that blue buff does go down, but Draven and Thresh are able to cross over to mid lane fairly quickly from their current position.
Well, Rumble is being chased down here from a Hungry Bear and a Diana, so doesn't have the tower to push back to. Equalizer comes down. What can Yamato Cannon do from this position? Moonfall and the Rolling Thunder throwing him around like a ragdoll is going to be flashing up red, will go down, and the passive of High Switch will keep himself alive. But again, HeimerdingersCollosi are like, okay, you take one of our players, we'll take one of your towers. They're just going to push mid.
Yeah, and the Whirling Death did nothing. It clipped through a couple of the members, didn't really do all that much damage. Only the Bloodthirster finished for Draven, not even level 2 boots on top of that. And interestingly enough, on Bano in the mid lane, he's picked up Boots of Swiftness. Now, that's not an item that we see all that much, and it's not an item we see all that much on Kha'Zix either.
Yeah, it's very true. You don't see many Boots of Swiftness around anymore, but obviously feeling the extra maneuverability will help him out to assassinate characters. He just simply doesn't have enough damage as it stands now, though. And
Sorry, I was going to say, don't forget that the Boots of Swiftness will reduce the effects of slows by 25% as well. So maybe it's that Glacial Storm he's trying to get away from.
That's a very good point, actually. I didn't even think of that. So it could very well be the reason, but still, he's going to be taking so much damage right now that it's quite scary. They don't have an Aegis of the Legion finished yet, and therefore not a Bulwark, but you can see that at the moment High Switch is building the components of one, has the Ruby Crystal, Null Magic Mantle, and the Cloth Armor. That's going to be extremely important against an Anivia and a Rumble. Speaking of Rumble, he's being chased down once again, managing to flash away there right at the end, and the Rolling Thunder wasn't quite successful. But the Equalizer has been popped. Here comes Nautilus from the side. Depth Charge has been used, and this gank is going to backfire. The Hunters become the hunted, and Diana will be falling right now to Anivia, who goes unstoppable. Now have the target on the back of High Switch, but he is too fast. And, well, to be fair to absoluteLegends, they did get a tower out of that. They pushed the middle tier tower out.
Yeah, and if we look at the vision that HeimerdingersCollosi have right now, they've got a lot of good wards out in the map. They've got that whole radius down through the jungle, and, you know, they've got good vision on everything that is going on the side of absoluteLegends. And HeimerdingersCollosi are now going to push in. Yamato Cannon got dropped very low once again, 2v1, but that has allowed HeimerdingersCollosi now to sit in front of a tower. Don't think they can actually put all that much damage out. They've got to be careful that High Switch and Bano don't come down from behind, and that means HeimerdingersCollosi are going to pull out.
It's quite a curious game, this, for Yamato Cannon, because he's consistently being caught out. He's died 4 times already, but there's a certain essence of maybe he's the bait right now, because every time he's drawing 2 players to come and gank him, and that allows the rest of his team to push mid. So maybe this is something they want to rinse and repeat. They don't mind it too much. They feel a lot stronger in the 4v4 kind of situations with an extremely fed Anivia who's just finished off a Rabadon's death cap. Wowzers, that's a lot of damage coming out at 23 minutes, and still no Aegis of the Legion on the team of absoluteLegends. So Anivia, you feel, can probably nuke down Draven in 2 or 3 hits right now.
Yeah, Volibear is building towards that Aegis of the Legion, but it's an item that we've said a couple of times. It's kind of difficult. It's a fair money dump for junglers to pick up that Runic Bulwark. I mean, it is a fairly standard item as well, but when you're behind in the jungle and just your team in general, even though the jungler is sat at 3-1, when your team is behind, it can be difficult to afford an item of that cost. And you see Odama has disconnected. It is a disconnect. It is not any kind of unhappy quit. I don't want to call it rage, because at this point they're not that far behind that they can't get back into this. So it has been a DC here out by absoluteLegends. That's why we've got a quick pause.
Yep, and as you were saying, it's a very good point that it is a big dump of money to just go ahead and be like, okay, I'm gonna first buy Runic Bulwark after my obviously Spirit of the Ancient Golem or whatever it is that you happen to buy up in the jungle. Obviously the support can't hope to get a Runic Bulwark unless they've had the most ridiculous game ever and they're like 10-0 and carrying everything. So at this moment, Volibear only has 58 CS, so even though he has 3 kills and 2 assists, they're quite a bit behind on global gold. Drakes have gone to HeimerdingersCollosi. They also tower up, soon to be 2 towers probably in mid. So it is pretty tough for Volibear. How much gold does he actually have? He's only got 226. So he still can't afford to finish off the Aegis of the Legion and won't be able to do so for quite some time because he's being harassed so much in his own base, in his own home. So trying to get any CS or trying to get kills is really, really tough.
Yeah, very tricky for him right now, and hopefully we'll get him back in fairly soon. I mean, not sure exactly why the disconnect has happened. Hopefully nothing untoward going on. Hopefully just some kind of lag spike that's forced him to DC. But at this point in the game, what do absoluteLegends do? Where do they go from here? Because they're going to have to turtle for a little bit, but take a look at the map. You can see Diana is pushing out, as is Kha'Zix. I mean, are they trying to respond by taking towers of their own? And do you really think that's the right option?
I think that absoluteLegends are in a really difficult situation, and a sticky situation. There's no two ways about it, because you look at their carries. Kha'Zix only has 1 kill and 1 assist. Draven has no kills and 3 deaths, so there's a massive discrepancy between the 2 AD carries. You got Varus, who's finished off a Bloodthirster and a Last Whisper, and also has 1,200 gold. And Draven, he's got a Zeal and a Bloodthirster. Fair enough, he does have 1,000 gold, but it's not even going to finish off his Last Whisper right now. So a big chunk of change difference between the two of them. They could try and turtle in, but Anivia is just as good at sieging as she is defending, because again, the Glacial Storm comes down, she can poke with the Flash Frost, if they land something, can full on engage with characters like Nautilus. So even if absoluteLegends are going to just turtle in and play really passive, there's still so much danger, and in doing so they're just going to give up the entirety of the jungle. Every Drake's going to go to HeimerdingersCollosi, the Baron's more than likely going to go to them as well, and they're just going to be in such a difficult situation. I think Kha'Zix needs to basically just jump in and see what happens. I don't think they have a great deal of choice here, but even that being said, he doesn't have a great deal of damage himself.
Yeah, and he's been farming very well, actually. To consider that he's out farming by only a little bit, that Anivia is a fairly big achievement. But HeimerdingersCollosi, just in general, they're going up against teams that have played teams that they look really good against, if that makes sense. Like, absoluteLegends beat British Tea Time yesterday, who were looking very strong. Tricked were looking very strong and beat, I want to say, no, it wasn't TCM, it was absoluteLegends beat TCM earlier. Tricked went up against Gaming Gear, I believe, in the first round.
Yep.
Looked very strong against them, and HeimerdingersCollosi made them look not so good. So HeimerdingersCollosi are a team that are making a lot of other teams not look so great, and hopefully we'll get an update. Even Freeze is asking in the game, have we got any updates? We have been in pause for a few minutes now, so hopefully they'll be back letting us know. But while we are in this pause, you guys, why don't we give you some information on our giveaway that we're doing today? Vince, why don't you tell them a little bit about that?
Yes, so at the end of this best of 5 that we're currently playing, the grand finals, we'll be giving away an XMG Gaming laptop. If you want to put yourself in with a chance to win that, all you have to do is head on over to raid call 7007 room, and it's called Kaostv Laptop Giveaway. So join that, and at the end of the best of 5, we will be picking a winner, and we'll give you all the details that you need. So again, raid call 7007 Kaostv Laptop Giveaway channel.
Yeah, and as I was saying earlier, don't forget to tweet us, send us your thoughts, thoughts on the games, thoughts on the teams that are in here, and also, you know, the tournament in general. I am at Dignitas Stress on Twitter. You can find Metuz at metuzTV on Twitter, but he doesn't use it very often. So it looks like Bass might be taking this to a break very shortly, guys. We'll give you an update what's going on also. Okay, we're not going on a break, sorry. I'm just being told by production as I've got the stream open as well. Yeah, don't forget to follow Kaostv here on Twitch as well. Hit follow, and you'll be able to get info whenever we go live. It'll give you a notification, and you can watch all of the content here on Kaostv.
I'd just like to bring some attention as well to Lego My Ego, because of course he did come in to substitute Extinct. I really like what he's brought to this team. I mean, beforehand, you said it yesterday as well, remember that they were ahead of Tricked? They made a few misplays which looked very much like it was overconfidence. Like almost arrogance to a certain extent, where they would jump in, outnumbered, outgunned, and they'd end up dying. And it seemed a bit strange to me when I was watching it. And when you mentioned about overconfidence, I was like, yeah, it definitely fits the bill. With Lego My Ego, they seem to have this kind of balance about them. With his Anivia play, he's just farmed the mid, even though he's behind on Kha'Zix, but Kha'Zix has been split pushing a lot, while Anivia has been consistently running with the team. So she's been playing really, really well. Lego My Ego has been playing really, really well with his team, and they're now looking to pick up this middle tower. Now, Extinct yesterday had a good game, so I'm not trying to discredit him in any way, but what do you think about Lego My Ego? Do you think he's fit in well in this matchup?
I think he's fit in a little bit better than I was expecting to, especially when brokenshard was saying about the defensive playstyle. I mean, obviously, defensive is just a way of playing. It doesn't mean that you're always going to be defensive and never, pressure anybody's mistakes. But to be 5-0-1 pretty much shows that he's a fairly well-rounded player within the defensive style, because he's picked up mistakes pretty much any time that Absolute Legends have made them, and hasn't even, I don't remember that he's even had his passive popped, so he's kept himself fairly safe. So I'm really liking this play style out of Lego My Ego.
That's a very good point, actually. I don't remember his egg coming out either, so has been playing extremely well, positioning very well, not getting caught out needlessly. What we normally do stress in these kind of situations to keep things flowing, because there's only so much we can talk about in a game like this, is, well, I say that, and then here comes Diana reconnecting, so never mind. I was going to say we could answer some questions from the chat, but we have just been informed that Diana is back. They're asking if HeimerdingersCollosi are ready, and fingers crossed, Stress will be live to go very shortly.
Yeah, and always happens as soon as you start talking anything about anything else. That's when people start to come back to the game. Ready has been called by HeimerdingersCollosi Meluno, just giving them the ready in chat. So play will be unpaused in just a couple of seconds. We are back now with HeimerdingersCollosi looking aggressive on towards this tower. It looks like they're going to just disengage until the next wave appears. The wall will be down for a few more seconds, but obviously that upset the flow of the game, so they're going to back off from that, and I'm going to make sure I'm caught up to live.
Yeah, likewise. I have just skipped to live. There we go. Drake is up, and you're going to have HeimerdingersCollosi batting this one down very, very fast. And I thought that the tower may go down there, but not enough damage, and also, and more importantly, the creep wave wasn't there. So they didn't want to be tanking the tower needlessly, especially at just 24 minutes through. Even though they do have a lead, they're not at that kind of tank status yet where they don't care about towers. It's still very much a threat. So Anivia is going to be popping down towards the bot lane, going to get herself some farm, and in the meantime, Kha'Zix recalling. So just to go back before, I think Absolute Legends need to turtle in, but they don't want to be too passive. They still need to try and make plays happen, because the lead is not so big right now that they can't come back from it. 5k at 25 minutes or thereabouts is pretty big, but it's not a game-breaking difference. So if they can start to pick up kills on Anivia, which of course is going to yield them a shutdown and extra 500 gold, that could be just what they need. Maybe catch HeimerdingersCollosi at a Baron or something like that, get the ace, pick up the Baron, they're right back in the game again.
Yeah, and some more info coming over from our analysis team with brokenshard feeding me little tidbits of information. Freeze is actually running a pure armor penetration build, which explains a little bit why he's not going for that Blade of the Rune King, and he's actually maxing Q on this build with Varus, so something very interesting with the way he's playing the champion that, as I commented earlier, is a little bit different from what we'd normally see in the current meta, so something pretty cool there.
Yeah, it's a very interesting way of building Varus, because I know some players who like to finish off the E, which is the hail of arrows first. Some people like the blighted quiver, which of course is going to give magic damage onto an AD carry, which is always a nice thing. They like to max that first. So taking Q, the piercing arrow, very, very interesting stuff there. And you have to say it's working for him. He's 4-2. He's a long way ahead on CS and overall gold over Draven. Let's have a look at the overall gold actually. 9.7k to Varus, 7.7 to Draven. 2k difference between the AD carries. That's a big deal.
Yeah, that is a big deal, and I'm interested to see exactly the gold disparity in that mid lane. You can see it's about 1,500 gold, so that's still a fair amount. Death Sentence has landed onto Lego Mayugo. This could be the first time we see that passive pop. Crescendo is going to come out as well. Equalizer was down with the Whirling Death going straight through the team. They pick up Odamna, and that means they can pressure on towards this mid tower. And Nivea did get dropped quite low, but as we said, passive has not been popped yet, so still has that refresh on the life. Just dodging that piercing arrow would have been quite interesting to see exactly how much damage that does with that extra armor penetration. Wall goes down and the Glacial Storm, so pretty much zoning out the entire area around the turret for defense. So they pick themselves that tower up, and now they're going to fall back and regroup.
And this is what I was saying before, Nivea's sieging capabilities are very, very strong, underrated in my opinion. Everyone talks about how good she is at being defensive and stalling attacks, but with the wall, with the crystallize and her frostbite and everything else that she uses, it's very, very easy to zone enemy players out, especially if you're fed. They do not want to take that damage. So she is going to be pulling herself down to bot lane. Her flash was burnt there, Stress, in the engage. So that's somewhat of a minor victory, but they lost the tower for it. The flash for a tower and a death, I mean, it's a no-brainer. But Diana has respawned. A 1-4 scoreline. Not been a great game so far for Odam at top lane, but it's been one of those kind of games where HeimerdingersCollosi have taken the advantage and they've just went home with it. They haven't really let up. They've constantly had pressure all over the map.
Yeah, and that Aegis the Legion has finally been finished on to Volibear. As we said, it was building it for a second item. He's not all that close to finishing the Runic Bulwark though, and that's going to be the really key item to go up against this double AP style that we're seeing. And that has become ever so popular now these days. You've been seeing a lot more dual AP lanes and that heavy AD jungler style. And when you do manage to get that Runic Bulwark, it gives your team a little bit more survivability in the team fights, but considering how far HeimerdingersCollosi, those resistances, I'm not sure how far they're going to really go in this one.
Yeah, Sereth's Embrace also on Nivea, so it's going to be even harder to take Lego My Ego down now. You're going to have a nice mana shield coming up, and then after that, the egg form, and by which time you're going to expect Varus and Rumble to just run rampant. So this is really, really precarious situation time for Absolute Legends. You're going to have them pushing down that mid door once again. Diana recalling. They may actually be able to try and force the inhibitor here. You have Rumble and also Nautilus, the two tankiest champions on their team, taking point. They don't feel like they want to try and be that aggressive just yet. Maybe coming in for seconds. With that nice Void Spike coming out from Kha'Zix, doing a fair amount of damage. You have the Crystallize again. Death Sentence comes up. Doesn't quite land this time onto a Nivea. The Flash Frost does come through. And it's just a poking game right now, Stress. It's going to be, if the Death Sentence can land on a Nivea, they may try and go all in. If not, they're probably just going to stay back and spam the Void Spikes.
Yeah, and this kind of siege, as you said, from Anivia is going to be able to zone so much of the damage and potential for Absolute Legends. You can see that Runic Bulwark doing a little bit of work, but the closer that and the longer that Yamato Cannon stays alive in these team fights, that Abyssal Scepter is going to reduce the magic resist. So it's pretty much counteracting that Aegis of the Legion right now for the team, and you can see that Absolute Legends don't really want to fight this right now. They just end up letting that inhibitor go down, which if you're at any point where you're letting an inhibitor go down and you can't really answer it all that well, you know, you already know you're at a bad point in the game.
Yeah, very much so, and not just that, but HeimerdingersCollosi now are realizing how unconfident Absolute Legends are. They didn't even try and fight that, so that's going to breathe more life into them, pulling themselves back. I think one of the reasons Absolute Legends did not want to engage there is knowing if they'd have been aced, it could have been even the game over, but at the very least it would have been a free Baron. So they don't want to give up anybody just yet. They want to try and live to fight for another day. And it's better safe than sorry, Stress. We've said that a couple times over the last couple of days, but I think in Absolute Legends' position right now, not fighting the inhibitor made a lot of sense.
Yeah, but the problem is, where do they go from here? I mean, Diana we've seen build a couple of different ways. We were talking earlier about that Nash's Tooth build that you've seen a little bit on Diana. And of course she had to build the magic resist because of just the team composition and setup for that double AP comp. But what that really takes away from her is a lot of that split pushing potential. She doesn't have that extra attack speed and the damage, therefore, as fast on her passive. Of course, every third strike is going to deal extra magic damage on top of the attack damage. And that really allows her to shred through turrets, and because she's been forced down the somewhat defensive route with the Abyssal Scepters so early on, it's going to be difficult for absoluteLegends to push out if they're not all as 5, because they're going to get caught out very easily. And you can see that right now HeimerdingersCollosi are just pretty much having their way with the map.
Well, we do have the Sonny's Hourglass finished onto Diana finally, so maybe that is going to spell a bit more aggressiveness from absoluteLegends. HeimerdingerSwitch has been caught here, recalling with his pants down. It's being forced to flash there, and that's a bit of an odd decision to make, because recalling without the sanctuary of your team or tower just seems a bit sloppy to me. Had he have gone back, he could have easily just ran back to spawn. It wouldn't have taken that long, or at least recall next to the tower, but in doing so, basically burnt his flash. We do have the dredge line coming through onto Kha'Zix, who's instantly going to jump. HeimerdingerSwitch is back in with the boots as well, going to be chasing right in with the home guard. Crescendo comes across, has landed onto Draven as well, who gets depth charged into the air. This is actually looking pretty good, and if he's very low, here comes Kha'Zix. He's got the reset. Is he going to jump back on towards Sona? There we go. He's going to come in. Nice exhaust though, and he will be falling. Bano goes down to Lego My Ego, who is very, very low on health, has been egged formed. Going to be jumping in here. On the flip side though, Varus does take down the Diana, but this fight has been very, very nice for absoluteLegends. They're going to get the 2-for-3 exchange with the shutdown onto Anivia. Could potentially be a 2-for-4 if HeimerdingerSwitch can catch up to Freeze. He has no mana left. Nautilus could play the good guy here and sacrifice himself for his AD carry. Not going to be the case though, in doing so may actually also fall. This could be a 2-for-5 exchange. TSMtournaments comes in and HeimerdingerSwitch picks up the kill, and there is exactly what they needed to do. Stress, get an ace, get all the gold, look a lot stronger.
Yeah, that was, as you said, exactly what they needed. That is a good set of exchanges for absoluteLegends. And I'm not sure exactly what happened there. It looked like they burst a lot on Volibear, trying to keep him down at the beginning. The wall was used. Kha'Zix just kind of ended up taking down the first one, and a lot of damage went down, and they were so split for HeimerdingersCollosi that they just ended up getting picked off. Anivia managed to kite around the fight for a fair amount of time, but then ultimately got put into the egg. That sentence there isn't quite going to land, and it looks like absoluteLegends are going to back off with the Baron buff on 3 of them.
I think one of the key problems there is that the death sentence went in onto Nautilus. Now, normally that's not the kind of character that you want to pull into yourselves. He's tanky, he's very CC based, but in doing so, that allowed Volibear with the home guard boots to chase round the side of the bush here in the jungle next to the bot tower. So they were basically split off. There was kind of a 2 and 3 man skirmish going down from HeimerdingersCollosi, with Sona being forced to use the Crescendo, only landing on a couple of players, one of which was Volibear. He's not going to care one bit about Crescendo landing in his face. They burnt the depth charge on towards Draven, but he was instantly lanterned from Thresh. So he had basically took no damage from depth charge. I think pretty much every single CC ultimate there from HeimerdingersCollosi was used in a defensive fashion, and it was just stalling. It wasn't killing anybody, it was just putting them in their place for a couple seconds, and then as soon as absoluteLegends were out of the CC, it was time to go killing, and that's exactly what they did.
Yep, that is exactly what they did indeed. They went killing, picked up the 5, have picked up the Baron as well, and their inhibitors respawned, so a good few minutes there for absoluteLegends, but they are still behind. They have to hold on to this next siege. A couple of important cooldowns now are on. You can see that that egg passive for Anivia is not available since it was just popped in the last fight. And that's going to be, you know, for a defensive player like Lego My Ego, he's going to think twice about going in for the engagements. Freeze has picked himself up a Guardian Angel, and that will be active for the next fight. Of course, he's only just picked it up. Bano picks one up for himself, so that means we're going to have life after death for a couple of these players on these teams.
Yeah, it's a good point. You know, GA is always an interesting item to cast on, because you think someone's dead and then surprise, surprise, hello everyone, I'm back again. But I'm looking at the goal difference. Last time I mentioned between the two AD carries it was 2k. Has been moved to 1.5k, which doesn't necessarily sound like a great thing for Draven, but as I said, I believe it was yesterday, the gold difference will start to not really matter that much as the game progresses. At some point, when the items are all built up, gold does not mean anything. And right now, Draven is looking a lot stronger. Before, he was literally an item behind the Varus. He's now picked up his Phantom Dancer, Last Whisper, and a Quicksilver Sash, which is going to be so useful against the Flash Frost, against the Chain of Corruption, and the Crescendo that's going to be coming out. All that CC is going to be able to be completely mitigated from Draven. And also, Kha'Zix now with the GA and the Muramana is... and also, the Last Whisper, it has to be mentioned, is going to be able to jump in now and pop down characters like Anivia and Varus very quickly. Here comes Nautilus from the side. Dredge lining in, has depth charge on towards Draven. There's a long way between Draven and Heimerdinger's Revenge. We're going to have the box coming down as well. Very well played. Here comes Kha'Zix from the side, doing a lot of damage, has been exhausted instantly. The egg form comes out. It's looking quite good here from absoluteLegends. Lots of players are flashing up red though. Beautiful death sentence from the Thresh. Here comes Draven from the backside. Draven would have been dead had the death sentence not landed. So good guy Abyss coming in, and that is a clean ace dress. Who thought this was going to happen 15 minutes ago? Certainly not me. And now Heimerdinger's Colossi are on the back foot and looking like they could lose this one.
A very nicely fought team fight out of absoluteLegends. After that depth charge was burned, there were a lot of members of Heimerdinger's Colossi that tried to chase as fast as possible, but Draven was so far away that when the depth charge actually hit, nobody was on top of him and they just went forward into a wall of damage. And Kha'Zix jumped over the side, Odamna came over as well, using the Crescent Strike and Luna Rush, and they picked themselves up that clean ace. It's only Sona available. Mithy is alive, as I said, but with 10-second death timers left on the side for Heimerdinger's Colossi. absoluteLegends don't feel like they want to end the game yet, but they have finally taken the lead in this game, and after a pretty slow start for Kha'Zix, he now finds himself doing a significant amount of damage in these team fights.
And this is straight up why you should never give up in League of Legends, like ever. Unless you are 0 and 30 down and they're killing the Nexus, then fair enough. But you should never ever give up when you still have power, when you still have characters that can make a difference. Because we're seeing right now the perfect example. Heimerdinger's Colossi around the 20 to 25 minute mark looked unbeatable. There was nothing absoluteLegends could do. Anivia was knocking down the mid doors. She didn't care about any damage. She hadn't even been popped in egg form. Fast forward about 10-15 minutes and it's the complete flip side, it's the complete opposite way around. When the depth charge went on to Draven, first impression for me was like, oh god, they're going to start a fight and Draven's going to get popped down. But then I had a look at the rest of Heimerdinger's Colossi, they were too far away to capitalize on that. Plus the fact that something that a lot of people don't realize about Draven is he does have a steroid with his Blood Rush. It gives him a 60% increased movement speed for 1.5 seconds. So he got that very quick sprint, was able to make even more distance between him and Heimerdinger's Colossi. They're going to be engaging onto Freeze, who's been caught way out of position, and the AD carry is down for 60 seconds. And that's just basically going to be 3 towers once again for absoluteLegends. It goes from bad to worse for Heimerdinger's Colossi.
And that'll be a reality check now for Heimerdinger's Colossi. They haven't really felt a team put them in this kind of position all tournament long. And I guess if there's a time to have that happen, it's in the first game of the series here in the Grand Finals. Rather than any time later, they catch on with the death sentence, take down Lego My Ego as well. And now absoluteLegends, this is more of the absoluteLegends we saw yesterday. Meluno is going to go down as well. They find themselves with 3 down, 2 of which have 50-second death timers. This might just be it here for Heimerdinger's Colossi in game number 1.
I think this pretty much is it. You've got Rumble and Sona, neither of which have their ultimates to try and burn down this creep wave. They're not going to be able to stop the 5-player onslaught from absoluteLegends, who are looking like they are going to take game number 1. And I have to question, we are going to have some cleanup kills right at the end. They're pretty much mandatory right now. It's like, if you're behind, you want to kill as many people as possible. That is going to be GG for game number 1. And I have to question, Stress, how is Heimerdinger's confidence and kind of psychology going forward to game 2? Because they were so far ahead for so long, to lose it in such a blazingly quick fashion, they must be on tilt right now. You have to feel that their TeamSpeak must be completely silent.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to enjoy losing that one. They were significantly far ahead. I mean, there was a point where they probably could have ended the game if they just pushed for it, to be honest. They were drawing patterns on the map with wards, and they were just pretty much so far ahead that they should not have lost that game. Let's be brutally honest. I mean, Absolute Legends were pretty much slow out of the starting blocks, and somehow they just ended up taking good team fights, good positioning, and as you said, sticking with it even when behind. And they come back against a team that were looking significantly stronger than they were. I think we're going to head to a very